Hey, what's up everybody? I am Undying Blaze, and as you can see, I have changed my video format for this video, and the reason is I wanted to be able to have the ability to fast forward through the video if need be. So as you can see, this is a very, very huge rocket, and this is a response to the challenge that Ethan gave me to launch a rocket to another planet with a submarine in it and land it and deploy the submarine. Now, I wasn't able to complete the challenge, but this video is kind of dedicated to my attempt at getting there and the last design iteration before I finally gave up. But yeah, it's my attempt to get there, and also, yeah, like, I'm not gonna, like, cancel this challenge forever. It's just at my current skill level I cannot do it, and I will design a ship probably sometime in the future when I'm considerably better, but I need to, like, practice getting to other planets because I couldn't even design a ship that would withstand a gravity turn, which this ship could not. So you'll see here I have this massive fairing on the top, and so right here I actually decided to, well, not here yet, but in a moment, I decided to actually change the design of my rocket, even though I had gotten kind of far, and this is honestly the slowest part of the whole thing. This is real time right here. This isn't accelerated, but this isn't slowed down, certainly. Also, it's kind of loud, so I'm probably going to have the audio be either dampened for the rest of the video, or maybe I'll have some music or something. But anyway, so yeah, basically I decided that this was going way too slow, and I determined that the fairing at the top that kind of shields the front of the craft, it actually produces a lot of the wobble that happens once I reach the higher altitudes, which incidentally meant that I wasn't able to do gravity turns, which Ethan was mentioning was kind of frustrating, that I don't angle my ship at takeoff. But anyway, so this is 4 times speed. This is about as fast as my video editor will speed things up. So I'm just going to probably talk through this for a bit and maybe play some music, who knows. So yeah, as you can see that even though I'm at 4 times speed, this is incredibly slow, but it is nonetheless 4 times faster than real time. So basically it left a lot of room to get bored when flying this craft. Now, I took a lot of time to design this thing, and even still, looking back on it, there's so many improvements that I could have made that I just didn't do, and it's kind of annoying to me, but I'll just deal with it. I just wanted to, I kind of knew that I wasn't going to make it, and I was trying to get to Eve and land in the water there. I'm pretty sure that the water is in Eve. Anyway, so, yeah, that just shows how much I know. Anyway, so I just basically wanted to give up on the challenge temporarily. I know that the rocket could probably make it there, I'm just not skilled enough yet, that's most of it. And so, while I could make design improvements, most of it is pilot problems in the first place. So, most of the reason that I ended up well, I'm not going to say quit the challenge. I'm going to say more like postponed it indefinitely. Most of it was just how long it takes to discover whether or not I need to to change something in my vehicle. So, okay, back to what I'm actually doing. Right here, I ignited the last engine, and that's just because the engines on the outside, they are lower power, but they have a lot more fuel in them, and I didn't want to go that fast, and so I wanted more fuel efficient engines, but I wanted the middle one to be well, just higher power, and it has less fuel capacity. And now you'll see here the wobble that I had to deal with. So things get pretty crazy here in the higher altitudes. You can't have the throttle on and have the wobble going at the same time, and so I'm just trying to counter that without using SAS, because that's the cause of a lot of the wobble. And it's just a major struggle as I'm just getting out of here. I'm countering all the motions as best I can, then I turn on SAS every once in a while, and then I finally just detach those engines because they ran out of fuel, which is one of the best parts of this, is when they run out of fuel. And then, of course, I had to make a turn, which takes forever with this thing, but I ended up finally managing it, and then, messing up a little bit. Yeah, this is actually my best attempt, which is really, really sad. So you're actually getting to see my best attempt. And yeah, I was like, screw that engine. So I ignited the middle engine and then all of my little nuclear engines. I know that there's a lot I did wrong. I don't need people saying how I did this wrong. I know that there's a lot I did wrong. I actually designed this ship a while ago. And so now that I understand the Kerbal interface more, it's a bit more frustrating to fly it. But I don't want to go through all the effort of redesigning the entire ship again. Not anytime soon. I'm going to probably have to end up doing it just so that I can get there faster, because I know there's better ways to do it. But I know that I don't want to put that amount of time into it. So I'm just kind of making this video saying it's sort of documenting what I have worked towards. At the end of the video, it'll show how it worked. So you can stick around for that. You don't have to worry about just missing it. You don't have to worry about me making this cool thing and then not showing you how it exactly works, just knowing that I didn't actually make it to Eve. So anyway, this is me. It's weird. This is actually like the first video I've ever really narrated. And so I'm just sitting here in front of like my video editor just playing through this in fast forward. It's so strange. Anyway, so I'm trying to warp over to my apoapsis and get as good of a lineup with Eve as I can. And I'm really, really, really not good at it. And so I just took a really, really long time lining this up. And really to no avail, because no matter how hard I tried, it took forever. and I still couldn't get it right. So after tons and tons of finagling, I finally got sort of a collision point right there, as you can see. And so I actually ended up screwing up really bad. So what I did is I set my ship to turn and face the target, the target. But the problem was that I wasn't supposed to set it to target, I was supposed to set it to the maneuver node. And so I actually lost some time there, just because I screwed up in that way. So I knew it was the blue one, but then when I clicked that, I'm like, oh wait, that's not the right one. And so I started turning away, and then I turned back. Or no, this wasn't yet. I was like, wow, it's really just not agreeing with me. And so I think I just faced it towards it. I think I turned it off, and then faced it towards that node as good as I could. I think. Because I knew that the time was almost up. Oh no, I figured it out. Oh right, I figured it out, but I had almost no time left. That's what it was. Okay. I can't see what the time says in the bottom, so I couldn't remember if this was the time where I took a long time to make the maneuver or what. But no, I started maneuvering a little bit too late, and that was really my screw up at this point. So then I finally figured out my stupid problem, and then full throttle as good as I could at the time. But then the middle engine ran out of fuel, and so I kind of panicked for a second. But then I think that it ended up having enough fuel for this maneuver, but it didn't have enough fuel for the next one. I think that's what happened. So I'm just going to play some music here until we get to where I quit, really. Because there's not much more I need to say. I couldn't really line it up right, and I had to just quit. So here's some pretty cool music, a couple different tracks, and we'll get there when we get there. Okay, and as you probably noticed, I cut out a little bit because it was just so absurdly long, especially knowing that there wasn't anything to look forward to. So here is how my ship actually worked. Now that now that we know that I can't make it there right now, or at least I won't. I'm not going to. So the launch is a bit sped up, but once the engines finally ran out, which I realized I put on infinite fuel, and yes, I was using infinite fuel at the end of the last clip because I was trying to see if I could make it there, but I still couldn't manage it. So right here, I actually finally ran out of fuel. Well, in just a moment. And any day now. Okay, there we go. So when it runs out of fuel, I'm able to actually detach all of this stuff. I should have just put it in zero gravity mode and detached the main engines right away, but I didn't really think about it at the time. So here we go. This is me just detaching everything so that I can show you just how the submarine deployment works. So I separated myself a little bit, turned off ignore max temperature, because the engines were overheating as well. So I ignite this engine so that I can flip myself around. It doesn't quite work as well as I had hoped, but I found out afterwards that I could have just detached the front and it swings around naturally the right direction. So after all of the finagling that I did, I finally just detached it and let it free fall. So this front part, was the only part that was really supposed to go to the planet's surface and survive. That's it. That's all. That's my entire payload. But it took so much effort to build a craft that was able to just maneuver in space that it became not worth it, because there's so much I think there's so much air and things for air to hit basically in there, that it made it really, really, really full of drag. I don't know. It had a ton of drag on the front, which made it very, very hard to fly. So what would happen is, on the planet that this thing got to, I would detach this, and this would just fall towards the planet. It's a nice shell for my cool submarine. If you haven't seen the submarine yet, it's in its own video. I made it when 1.0.5 came out for Kerbal, so that was a pretty cool thing. It was nice to have the buoyancy changed finally, which allows this entire thing to take place, because there was no real point or way to make submarines in the first place. So here I detached the front, what is it called? The ablator, or whatever, the heat shield in the middle, and that's just because that's attached to the front of the submarine, as well as the entire the entire unit is attached to the front, and then there's struts connecting the submarine to the actual shell. And so I let this just kind of descend until the parachutes opened, which takes a very, very, very ridiculously long time if you deployed them at as high an altitude as me. And the reason I deployed them at the time I did was just so that it would slow it down a little bit before they opened up, so that I was going as slow as possible when they did open, so that they don't, rip the ship in half, which, is a pretty good idea. Most of the time my crap does generally rip in half. So these heat shields actually do protect you when you're entering the atmosphere at a really high speed, so it's super, super nice, very convenient. Now they opened up, so at this point you're able to detach the casing, which I do, and the casing has little rockets that kind of separate it a little bit, and they fall, heating up, but it doesn't really matter. Anything can happen to them at this point, and it doesn't matter. And then, so this part is just to separate the shell from the submarine. So all that's left here is the top that attaches to the rocket itself, and then the submarine. So we'll just detach that as soon as we can, really. I try to make sure that it's as level as it can be, just pointing exactly straight down. Usually, it's mostly for the detaching of the actual shell itself. And then I deploy my parachutes and let it just kind of gradually make its way to the ground. And I fast forwarded this part just because that would take forever, and I'm already impatient enough as it is. But yeah, so once you get to the water, you want to have your nose actually hit the water first, because otherwise it can, with everything hitting the water at once, it can actually rip some parts off. So then I I activate that engine and just kind of goof around with it, and then I detach the floats, which the front and back are floats. I mean, that part was just me activating the engines, which is part of the system. There we go, all the floats are deactivated, and then I rev up the engines, and as you can see, it's still a fully functioning submarine. So now this next part is just kind of a fast-forwarded montage of me just scooting around in my submarine, showing off that it actually works after being flown around. Yeah, so I'll just leave you guys to that. Okay, and as I'm falling here, you can see that I didn't rev up my engines enough, and it actually destroyed the submarine. It had some other functions, like detaching the fuel things on the side, and if you wanted to see that, you can, but really, there's not much else to show, so I think I'm going to leave this episode here. It's such a weird format, and it was so weird recording it this way, but that's really the only way I could have done this without taking 2 hours, which is how long it took to make that video, which is ridiculous. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please do leave a like, and I will see all of you in the next one. Goodbye. On Redbox for Xbox One. So I'm really, really, really not used to this control system. Excuse me, sir, but this is mine. Thank you. Alright. It's time to say hello. Boop. Boop. Oh no. We need more explosions.